Hello and welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And me, Simon Mann.
If you can hear a little bit of trembling in my voice, it's because it's been one of those days. It's been the most pulsating day's cricket we've imagined. I mean, almost like 20 years ago, isn't it? With the final day of the Ashes 2005, when it was always in the balance all the way through, and this game is in the balance. It's finished up with England needing 35 and India needing 4 wickets, and we hear Chris Woakes is going to bat if necessary.
If absolutely necessary, yeah. They're kind of, I think, going to find a way to get him out there, and we could see a situation where he is required. England will be desperately hoping that doesn't happen. Anyway, what are they saying in terms of the odds?
Well, it just shows how the game has fluctuated today, because at the start of the day, India were slight favourites at 57% and England 42%. And then as the day progressed, England got on top. And then they really got on top, so that when Brook and Root were going strong, it was 98% England, so 2% India.
So the Betfair odds were 98% England. 98%?
98%. So a lot of people have been backing England, obviously, and only 2% for India. But then now that both Brook and Root got out, and the lower order pair are looking fairly nervous and apprehensive and can't get the ball off the square, it's now England 78, India 21. So still England pretty much favourites, but there's a little bit of hope for India there. And I think also taking the second new ball, which is available in 3.4 overs, and a new day, which means those hard work bowlers can have a night's rest, could be to India's advantage.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Look, what happened is we were building towards this incredible climax towards the end of the day's play. Then we had this deluge for about 15 minutes. And they brought the covers on, and the umpires came out and did an inspection. They said we couldn't start by 6:42, so we've got to go off. And actually, as we're recording this, at about 20 to 7, the sun is out, and you feel they could be playing. But I think the outfield was pretty damp, and so you've got issues here, like Chris Woakes, for example, getting that injury on the first day where he kind of lost his footing on the edge of the boundary. You've got potentially the ball getting wet if they had gone out there. Fielders slipping a bit, so you can. It's a difficult one for the umpires, but you can understand why they called play. There was a bit of sort of churdishness from the crowds, one or two boos, but I can understand. It was just an imperfect storm, really.
If you were the Surrey chief executive, Steve Elworthy, it was almost as if he had that cloud on a bit of a string, and he just pulled it over the ground thinking, I need to actually get a fifth day. I need to get a few punters in the stadium tomorrow. It'll be worth quite a lot of money to Surrey, that.
Well, as long as, unless the game finishes with inside, 10 overs,
and then they've got to hand the money back.
Yeah, I mean, there's two stipulations.
Yeah, but people will buy beers and food and chips and hopefully celebration with champagne and so on.
Yeah, so there might be that element to it as well. But I mean, it's a bizarre day, isn't it? Where you come back with 35 runs needed. India need 4 wickets. And it sounds as though they will need 4 wickets if Chris Woakes is going to go out there if absolutely necessary. So who did that rain break favour? Before it, in the lead up to it, England just couldn't barely lay a bat on the ball. So in a way, I thought them coming off the field was quite good for them. But you're right, Siraj, etc. will be having a night's sleep. We'll be back tomorrow, roaring in. The new ball is available. The only thing is, India were on a high, weren't they? And sometimes it's difficult to get that same adrenaline going straight away. I remember once playing in a rugby match with school, going across the Severn Bridge from Bristol to play a Welsh school, and we were sort of slightly quaking in the boots because the Welsh teams were very strong in those days, and they said, come on lads, let's get the Hoyle going. And I was thinking, oh my God, that sounds pretty scary. So can India get the Hoyle going tomorrow morning?
Well, I suppose it's down to whether they can get their fans in or not, whether the fans have got the available holiday or availability to come again, because they do add so much. I was sat actually for a while in the pavilion behind us, the main old pavilion, and the atmosphere in the ground was just incredible. It was electric. It was almost like when Dhoni came out to bat in Chennai. The exuberance, the sound, the volume, the decibel levels. It was absolutely, every time the ball went past the edge or there was an appeal for LBW. What about that amazing incident when Jamie Overton, just before the rain break came, he had a drive. He's still on naught. Poor guy's on a pair and he can't get off a pair. And he tried to drive one and it went under the bat. And they were trying to work out there was contact with the bat as it went under the bat. But was it contact on the way up to the keeper, or was it contact on the way down into the ground? It was almost impossible to tell, and they had to say not out because the evidence on the video was inconclusive. But who could imagine that? Who could fix, who could script that into a day's play? That bizarre moment, a sort of classic, almost VAR type of moment which you couldn't get an accurate verdict on.
Yeah, I thought actually towards the end when they showed the various angles, I thought you couldn't give that out. It did look as though it bounced after it had gone underneath the bat. So to me that was they just wanted to check because it was so vital in the game, wasn't it, to be absolutely sure they got the right decision. I think they got the right decision. I think any batter out there, you'd feel a bit stiff if you've given out to that one. Shubman Gill, if you'd been given out to that one, you'd have thought, my goodness me, that's never out. So that was fair enough. But the day's play seemed to have just about everything, apart from the finish of the game. We said last night, I said last night, I thought India would win the match, and of course they still might. I'd rather be in England's position now, I think. But it's still
you said exactly the opposite yesterday.
Well, that's because they need 35 to win with 4 wickets left. So I'd rather be in England's position now. But you can still see a route to victory for India if they were to get Jamie Smith out. First thing tomorrow morning, and Smith struggled tonight. I mean, it was a high pressure moment for him, and he struggled. He just about survived. But if they were to get him out early in the morning, 30 odd to win with Overton, Tongue, Atkinson and an injured Chris Wokes. I mean, that feels like a long way away. So you almost feel as if India are 1 wicket from really being, from the game being even, really. You mentioned those odds, England sort of clearly favourites, but India are not far away from being able to put some serious pressure on the England lower order. And it is, they're all talented, aren't they? Overton can bat, and Atkinson can bat. He's got a Test match 100, and Tongue can stick it out. And Wokes, of course, he's incapacitated, and you have to just get out there. It's a tough situation, but it's the pressure of the situation that brings itself to bear on the players.
Isn't it incredible, the psychology of sport, that at one point in the day, Root and Brook were printing runs. They were just knocking it around. They were playing those bowlers if they were club bowlers, just knocking it into gaps or hitting it to the boundary with abandon and no issues. They weren't playing and missing. The bowlers didn't know where to bowl. The batters, the fielders didn't know where to field, etc. And then suddenly you get 2 wickets and the bowlers are bowling what seems like sort of hand grenades every ball, flying past the edge. The batters can't lay bat on it. The keepers and slips are appealing for everything. The umpires are under pressure. The crowd are going mad. It was just a total contrast. So we should just have a look at the day's play, actually, and sort of, in a way, maybe break it up into 3 phases. The first phase being Duckett and Pope, who I think went on a sort of bit of a sort of reconnaissance kind of mission, reconnaissance mission, and they got the innings stabilised and played some nice shots, a little bit speculative, but in the main pretty solid. And then both departed, and suddenly you have this game transformed with Root just playing his usual, almost sort of on automatic pilot role, just knocking it around and easing it into gaps and looking unhurried. And Harry Brook just taking the bowlers on and hitting them to all parts so that they almost felt helpless to know what to do.
Yeah. Well, first things first, on that first part there, when those 2 wickets fell, I thought, that's why I thought India would win the game, because there's going to be a ball that's going to jag, or there's going to be a ball that's going to find the outside
Duckett
edge.
Played and missed, I think, to 4 or 5 balls in 1 over from Siraj.
Yeah, exactly. So he was and quite fortunate to survive. He also hit one rasping off drive as well after that sequence, and then he went for another big drive and nicked it, and then Ollie Pope got one that jagged back quite a long way and had him LBW. He thought, 106 for 3. It's a big task now for England to win from there, and that's why I thought India would win, because there would be enough out there to just keep on causing those problems. But then we saw this extraordinary partnership. Having said that, there was that big moment, and probably the biggest moment of the day, really, when Mohammad Siraj on the fine leg boundary, he got underneath that top edge from Harry Brook. He was right there. He seemed to judge it really nicely, took the catch and then just put his foot back on the rope, and then sort of lost balance and went over the rope. Brook got a 6, and then from that moment on, Brook and Root together just seemed to dominate. And India, I don't know whether it deflated India, because it was in that sequence that Brook got going, and suddenly the pressure was back on India, and they must have been thinking, Jaiswal denied it last night, and he said we won't have any of that thought in our head about what's happened before. It must have been playing on their minds. I remember this situation. It's happened to us before, a couple of times, and once in this series. So, and they just made it look so easy, didn't they? I mean, there's an expression which I'm not going to use on this podcast, but you kind of like knock it off in a really straightforward way, and that's what it looked like, didn't it? It just looked to be no pressure, two class players on a pitch that was by then reasonably benign, just no trouble at all.
I mean, Jeff Boycott would say stick a rhubarb, wouldn't he? Playing it with a stick of rhubarb.
That's one expression you can use.
That's one expression. That's the family-friendly one. But Harry Brook, an extraordinary talent, and when I was watching that innings today, I did think of Viv Richards and to a lesser extent Kevin Peterson, and particularly Viv Richards because I played against Viv Richards a number of times. Of course, one of the greatest cricketers who've ever lived, one of the 5 greatest cricketers of the century in the 1900s, voted on Wisden. And when he came into bat frequently, I mean, OK, this is county cricket, but it's also test cricket, he would just take the bowlers on straight away. He would play outrageous shots, hit you over the top, pull a ball that wasn't short for 6 or 4.
Was that drive through the onside?
Pick you off the stumps, waltz across the stumps, and whip you through mid wicket. And you thought, that's a ridiculous shot. But suddenly he was on to 25, 30, and you didn't know where to bowl, and it puts you completely on the back foot as the bowler, and you don't know what to do, and you feel almost scared to run in because he might hit one back at you so hard that it takes your shin off or something. So. And in fact, he did. I think it was Root actually who drove one back at the bowler and hit him on the shin. But you don't know what to do. And then what Viv Richards used to do then, once the field got put back and the fielders were scattered and the bowlers were apprehensive, then he just played. Then he played himself in afterwards, just knocking it around, just easing it down, almost sometimes a sort of exaggerated block. As if to say, all right, I'll defend that one then. That's a good ball, but next one I'll wallop through extra cover. And Harry Brook plays like that, doesn't he? He was hitting the good balls for a single, the best balls that Prashid Krishna or Mohammad Siraj could bowl. He was just sort of going, all right, I'll just play that one just wide of that square leg fielder. I'll just drop it on the offside. That was their best ball. And if they slightly erred on full or short, they got absolutely clattered to the boundary in all directions. I mean, quite extraordinary innings.
Yeah, and it transformed the game for England. There will be people listening to this podcast who are watching the day's play, or they've seen the highlights, and they'll say, well, what on earth was the shot that got him out then? Because he just hit 2 4s, beautiful, clean strokes. And
this was his 10th 100, by the way. In his 50th Test innings, he got to his 100 in similar number of balls, 91 balls. So 50 off 39, 100 off 91, and he got to his 100. And all those people in the media centre who had written about Gilbert Jessup, including Simon Wilde, our colleague, who of course done a book about Gilbert Jessup and his fastest 100 of all time for England, 76 ball. They were all sitting there a bit nervous, but he didn't quite get there. But when he got to his 100, that was his 10th 100 in his 50th innings, so that's 100 every 5 innings. Only about 2 batsmen in history have scored their 100s more regularly than that. And one of those, surprise, surprise, was Don Bradman. Sachin Tendulkar scored 100 every 6 innings. Kumar Sangakkara every 6 innings. Ricky Ponting every 7 innings. To score 100 every 5 innings in Test cricket is quite something, and he is a special player. Yeah,
he is a special player, and that's why people, I think, because they know how much talent he's got, and he's got a good enough defence as well, and he's got all those attacking shots, why they say, why do you play a shot like that, the one that got him out? When England needed 70 to win, they were absolutely cruising it, weren't they? They were cruising to victory. India were on their knees, just looked at their body language, they were flat, and then he played, I mean, he had hit 2 4s, he played an extraordinary shot where he let go of the bat. Was he trying to hit it too hard? I don't know, whatever. And it was a bit of a swipe, wasn't it?
He was trying to hit it over mid-off, I think. Yeah, but backing away slightly.
So in isolation, it doesn't look a great shot, and that's where people go, how on earth can you play a shot like that after being so much in control? And you think, well, the ruthlessness comes into play there. We just go, right, we just win the game. I'm here at the end. I'm 140 not out. I've done the damage. I can just knock it around now. So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, this is our Betfair exchange today, isn't it? Sort of debating, should Harry Brook have played that shot? Thing is, it was a shot he played earlier in his innings. I mean, he hit Akash Deep. He went down the wicket when he was only on about 15. He went down the wicket and hit Akash Deep over extra for 6 into that stand over there. And you
So
see
basically
that.
it's England sport,
You have to take the good with the bad.
You just have to suck it up, I'm
Yeah,
afraid. You
well,
can
you do.
criticise if you want, but you get the extra special, you get the fantastic, you get the good, and there's going to be what you would consider some bad as well.
Yeah, I mean,
You
you often hear, people sort of watching the game going, but Harry Brook gets out to silly shots. The thing is, they will clap that shot if it goes for 4 and think, wow, that's amazing. And of course, they'll denigrate it if he gets out to it. It does look worse if your bat flies over square leg and the ball kind of lobs to short extra cover. But we've had a few of those, haven't we? I mean, do you think Ben Stokes was out stumped, wasn't he?
In Multan.
And the bat flew out of his hand. Rishabh Pant, almost every innings he plays, the bat flies somewhere. So I think it's the velocity of their hand speed, these players, the power they have and the desire and the passion to hit the ball out of sight. Sometimes cost them their blade, and in this case, his wicket. It was a shame, but I suppose, he walks the tightrope, doesn't he? And it's what makes him exciting. It's what made him enabled him to play those 1000s in 50 innings, because he's able to dominate the great bowlers of the world, or the best bowlers in the world. But he is going to come unstuck sometimes, and I guess you just have to accept that.
Can you play that way in Australia against their bowlers on their bigger grounds as well?
Well, they'd say, no way, mate. He's not going to be able to play there. Is he?
No.
Not going to be able to play like that, bloody idiot. I mean, they are bigger grounds, aren't they? And they're going to try. They're going to probably try and bounce him, aren't they?
Well, they did last time, didn't they?
Yeah, and he hasn't necessarily figured out the best way. I mean, I was quite interested to watch him today playing their bouncer tactics, and he was just paddling it for 1 and controlling it rather than trying to hit it for 6. He was just paddling it down here to fine leg or deep square leg and controlling the shot. He tried one outrageous where he backed away and tried to sort of tennis bat it back over extra cover, short ball, and missed it. And I think after that he realised it was probably better to play the percentage shot. So I think he's learned something from that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it must be amazing to have that much talent and you have that in your head. What do I do with it? And I suppose that might be the frustration for some people watching on, is you've got all that talent, why don't you make even more of it? But it's a pretty harsh criticism to bring to bear, and he's massively entertained us.
And we had this with Peterson, actually, didn't we? Sometimes as well. He played shots which you suddenly thought.
Back in the day, David Gower. I remember him getting caught at fine leg last over before lunch in a Test match, which Graham Gooch didn't take too kindly to. But I think he'd already made a couple of hundreds in the series and batted like a god and better than anyone else in the series. It's the nature of that. I suppose it's the nature of genius, really, isn't it? Having that extraordinary amount of talent. I'm actually, there's part of me as well, which I felt coming into this Test match, that Harry Brook was a really key player for England. I was fascinated to see how he would react in this game, because he a couple of iffy dismissals. I mean, it wasn't a great shot, was it? I didn't think it was a percentage shot, the dismissal, the stumping at Old Trafford when he came down the pitch and was stumped early on. Didn't like against Washington Sunday, who does take it away, doesn't he? Or just it drifts it away from you. I didn't think that looked like a percentage shot. And then, of course, he was involved in the bowling of some absolute pies in the last hour when they got their hundreds, and he was criticised being arrogant and all that sort of stuff. I did, but anyone listening to this podcast will know what I feel about that. I don't think it was arrogant. I would have bowled waist high full tosses and let them get their hundreds and get off the field as quickly as possible. I've said that before, so I didn't think that was. But for some reason he winds people up, doesn't he? So I was actually interested to see how he would react in this game, and I think he showed the full sort of panoply of his talents in this Test match. With a fine half century in the first innings, ran out of partners. That wasn't really his fault. He was batting with the tail, and here today, I mean, he's scored 100. That's given England a great chance to win a Test match from 100 for 3, and a great chance to win a Test match in which they had not quite no right to win. But you thought, oh my goodness me, they have to play seriously well to get close, and they have played seriously well.
Huge commendation to the Indian bowlers for keeping going today. 3 bowlers, they hardly bowled, again like England yesterday, they hardly bowled any spin, and those 3 fast bowlers just kept at it and at it and at it, and they found a new lease of life, didn't they? When those 2 wickets fell, Root and Brook were out, then suddenly they were bowling absolute grenades, bowling brilliant deliveries, whistling past the edge, and suddenly it's amazing actually what a wicket does to a bowler who's very deflated. Suddenly you get that burst of energy and optimism, and it's amazing actually. You're infused with adrenaline suddenly, and you bowl 5 mile an hour quicker. I mean, this often happens when you get a wicket, and the new batsman comes in and thinks, it looks easy out here, as Jacob Bethel probably did, thinking, Jacob Bethel was suckered in, wasn't he? He thought, this looks fairly easy, and he couldn't get it. He couldn't get a run, could he? And in the end, played an outrageous shot, and it just gives the bowlers new hope and new energy, and they exploited it superbly, so that England, in the end, couldn't get a run in that last sort of 20 minutes. Every ball was whistling past the edge, and every ball generated an appeal. It was incredible.
Yeah, look, fantastic for India to sort of find that sort of resolve or whatever to come back in that last session, because they looked absolutely beaten when Brook and Root were playing, and credit to Mohammad Siraj, not just energy and effort, but also a great deal of skill as well. Just one thing, I'll just pick you up on the Bethel thing. I'm not so sure about that. He felt it was easy. I think it would have been a really difficult situation for him, the most challenging situation he's faced in his Test match career so far, because look, it's a big day, and England, the series is on the line. He's sitting up in that dressing room while two blokes are putting on 200. So he's on tenterhooks for hour after hour after hour. I think any moment I'm going to be part of this. And then when Harry Brook is out with 70 to win, he's suddenly got to get that match head on, and there's still a game to be won, and it's challenging, and it's hard work. And what must it be like to be a batter who comes in after two people have made it look so easy?
Well, I think
for you're a novice though, and it's not easy for you. You're thinking, why was it so easy for them? It's not easy for me.
Meant, really, I didn't mean that he thought it was easy. I meant that they were making it look
right.
easy.
Right, I see.
And so then you come out expecting it to be easy, and it's not. It's just so difficult because the bowlers have got new energy, and you're all still trying to find your way. And in a way, it was a measure of how well Root and Brook played and how well they dominated the bowling. The bowlers just had they were sort of almost empty. With their tanks were empty, weren't they? They would run out of gas, and suddenly. Two wickets, and it's almost like the tank's full again.
Yeah. What did you think of Jacob Bethel's shot? I mean, those
terrible, absolutely terrible. Yeah. But I suppose I sympathise in a way because I suppose he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to maybe take the pressure off Root slightly. Perhaps he was given instructions in the dressing room: play your way. He'd seen Harry Brook come down the wicket and hit one on the up over extra, and perhaps he thought he could do the same. Poor guy hasn't had any cricket. The bowlers were in a different sort of mood. Maybe the pitch was just doing a bit more. The clouds had come over, so it was tough for him. It was tough, and he took the wrong option.
Yeah, I mean, it looks awful, doesn't it? I mean, you have a massive hack, and your middle pole is lying on the ground via the inside edge when there's a Test match to be won. It's a massive learning moment for him. I mean, right under the spotlight, suddenly the game was tense again, and then it put pressure on those beneath him.
And I think it'll affect him for a while, because he'll go back thinking, I could have been a hero there, and instead I've fluffed my lines, and it will take a while to sort of regurgitate his own sort of self-belief, I think, because he's let the team down there. I mean, no blame to him, because he's a young player, he's inexperienced, he hasn't had any cricket, so I don't want to be hard on him, but it's going to affect him mentally for a while.
Yeah, a tough moment. I mean, top-level international sport is gruelling, isn't it? And I think we saw that today for Jacob Bethel.
Did you see when Mohammad Siraj took that catch and accidentally walked over the line, there were people cheering in his face.
Yeah.
And actually he did very well. I think if it had been me, I wanted to jump over the boundary ball and lamp them, but obviously you can't do that. But it's right, it is in your face. And humiliation is something that's very hard to live down and overcome.
Yeah. I mean the Siraj catch one was an interesting one, because he initially seemed to judge it quite well.
It was a Trent Bolt moment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he stayed cool. He was underneath it. And it must be, I mean, the thing is, when you're trying to take a catch, like, the boundary's there, and you're just trying to get your feet right, aren't you? And it just slightly overbalanced. I mean, such fine margins in international sport as well. I mean, it's not just ruthless and the spotlight's on you. The margins are so fine as well. And we saw that today. What are we going to see tomorrow then, Jos? So 35 to win, 4 wickets left. I mean, presumably you think England are going to win. I think I'd rather be in their position than India's now. I think it's a game you probably should win from here, but it doesn't guarantee anything.
No, it doesn't guarantee anything. I think 30. If it was 55, I'd probably say India, but 35. a couple of edges for 4 and suddenly it's in the 20s, and then a few singles and suddenly it's in the teens. Jamie Smith is a very powerful player. If he just backs himself, takes a bit of time, just gets himself in, it could be a runaway victory. I think England will win by 3 wickets. I think they'll lose 1, but I think they'll win by 3 wickets.
It's not going to be an easy night's sleep for that England lower order, is it, for Jamie Smith? I mean, Joe Root, who's a very experienced player, talking about when he was on 99 overnight, early in the summer, he said, I just woke up and I kept thinking, going through all the permutations. This is a guy who scored, a million hundreds
3,900.
3,900s now, yeah. So what was it? I think he'd scored about 37 then.
Yeah.
He was waking up in the middle of the night going through all the permutations. So goodness knows what it's going to be like for Jamie Smith, who's relatively new to this, and Jamie Overton, who's totally new to this. I mean, he's not had a great game. He's still on a pair, I think, isn't he? He's still on a pair.
He is.
So I don't think he's going to sleep particularly well tonight. And then I always feel sorry for those who are behind them, thinking, am I going to be needed? Am I not going to be needed?
I mean, Gus Atkinson is a cool guy.
Yeah, he's quite
he
phlegmatic,
looks always
isn't he?
quite calm at the wicket, and he can obviously bat. And actually, I think Josh Tongue's not bad. He's made some runs for Notts this year and last year. So there are 3 guys there who can all, and obviously Smith and Overton. They're between them, they should be able to get 35 runs. Obviously, the pressure will be immense, and it'll be very exciting. And you know what tomorrow is, don't you? Tomorrow is
Monday.
It's Monday. It's the 4th of August. It's Crackerjack. No, it's the day 20 years ago when a certain Glenn McGrath trod on a ball at Edgbaston, and England got 407. Well, Ricky Ponting won the toss, put England in a big mistake. England got 407 in a day. That's tomorrow. Right. So maybe that's a good omen.
Yeah, well, 35 will do tomorrow. For England. Don't need the 407. Well, can India get the Hoyle going tomorrow morning? Can
They'll be trying.
Yeah. Can Siraj drag himself to one last effort? Yeah, I mean, those Indian bowlers, they had that problem that England had, which was just bowling all day and trying to rotate. They put everything. I suppose the finishing line is in sight, and tomorrow morning, well, it definitely is in sight, and everyone just collapse over it. But which side is going to be holding up the gold medal?
It's amazing, isn't it? This is the final test. All 4 tests have gone to the 5th day, and the final test is going to the 5th day as well. So it has been an epic series to absolutely replicate the series 20 years ago, the 2005 Ashes, on which we've done a 6-part series, and the next episode of that, the Edgbaston Test of 2005, will be released this week on Substack. So look out for that. But meantime, of course, we'll be back tomorrow to review the dying moments of this series.
I don't think we've ever done a podcast on about 35 runs before, have we? Or a handful of wickets.
We'll talk about every run, won't we?
Yeah,
and we'll probably live every run.
We might have to. What we'll do is we'll probably assess the series and perhaps throw it ahead to look at the Ashes selection, things like that. We looked at the bowlers last night. What we'll probably do tomorrow is just assess where England are going to Australia. I mean, just one thought on that, one final thought, is Australia in the winter. They beat India 3-1 at home, and that's England's goal tomorrow to equal that result, isn't it? And you say, well, that you beat India 3-1, we beat them 3-1. It hasn't happened yet. Let's see what happens tomorrow.